Hi, my name is Kim Pallister, and I'm the General Manager for the Gaming Solutions and Worldwide Developer Relations team here at Intel. I want to thank you for joining us at the virtual GDC. And this session is talking about some of the business and technology trends that we see affecting the PC gaming landscape. And through some of those trends, I'm going to give you pointers to some of the other sessions that we're presenting to here that may help you see past them and help you continue to deliver great gaming experiences on the PC today. There are 2.8 billion people that are playing video games today. It's an amazingly large number, a significant portion of the planet's population that is playing. And we think that only continues to grow. And we've certainly seen over the past year that there has been with a lot of venues shutting down and lack of choices of how people could entertain themselves, it only further fueled a growth of what is the preeminent art form of the 21st century. So what I'm going to do in this presentation is I'm going to break this number down a little bit, talk about how we see it affecting gaming on the PC. Then we'll talk about some of the trends under the hood and kind of technology-wise that are affecting the direction that gaming is going on the PC. And then we'll wrap it up with some kind of direction on kind of pointers to other sessions that we're doing, as well as some advice on how you can direct your experiences. When you look at that 2.8 billion people and you break them down by what kinds of devices they're playing on, there are just under half of them, 1.3 billion people that are playing games, all or part of their gaming being done on PC platforms. It's a huge number. Even knowing the size of our business, it's still one that kind of makes my jaw drop, right? And the reason that people are sometimes surprised by that is that we often see the very kind of high profile, prominent, loud and boisterous enthusiast PC gaming segment that, depending whose numbers you look at, that 100 to 200 million people that are playing on high-end gaming rigs and are very vocal. We forget about the fact that there's another billion people that are playing on a range of different PCs and playing sometimes the same experiences and sometimes different ones. But they absolutely make up part of the market, if a less vocal one. When you contrast that with where game players are in terms of how they're, you can look at the spending on different platforms as a proxy for where people are spending their time, and where their interest is. We've obviously seen that mobile gaming, with just over half the market, has been a huge growth area over the past number of years, but there's still very large and healthy gaming segments within both PC gaming and console gaming. All of these are on a growth curve, and so it behooves us to ask, okay, well, why is it that they're all capable of growing? Aren't these competing to some degree? And so if I look at this number here, I think this partially explains the answer to that question. So the number on the far left is from PwC's Global Media and Entertainment Outlook, and it's worth noting this is a report from 2018. I don't have the most recent one yet. So this was even before the trend of kind of acceleration that we saw in digital entertainment consumption with the pandemic. So $1.4 trillion worldwide being spent on all forms of media and entertainment, everything including gaming and music and movies and books and things like that, but also magazine subscriptions and live events and theater. It's quite a large pie there. And when you look at the total spend, at least for that year on gaming, it was roughly 10% of it at 137 billion, right? Now, that whole $1.4 trillion is growing at just under, or was growing at just under 5%, but gaming was growing at about double that. So to speak to the previous slide about where it is that the growth is coming from, at the end of the day, what it means is that people are spending more time and more money playing games, and that's coming from other activities that they may be doing less. And again, this is a trend we only saw accelerated during the pandemic, right? And then within there, PC gaming constitutes just under a quarter of that space, but a very large and healthy market. And again, being carried along with that wave of growth that we see across all of gaming. And another reason that it is interesting to think about how those different types of gaming platforms coexist is that the games themselves have evolved to take into account this kind of multi-platform trend, right? And in particular, with the advent of kind of games as a service and free-to-play games, what we've seen is that people are gaming across multiple devices, and the games are evolving to reach them on those different devices or across those different devices, right? And it makes sense that as a game evolves to become a service, it provides that service in a better way if it reaches users in as many places and in as many times per day as they can, right? And so this kind of overlapping set of bubbles on the left is from a study that we did that showed the amount of users that were kind of playing across multiple devices. And the reality is like a large chunk were playing basically across all the devices that they own, and that this overlap is actually increasing over time. Now, again, I mentioned that that one, and this is from an older division that we did of the slide, is now this 1.3 billion, but the kind of 10-to-1 ratio holds of the kind of enthusiast level gamers that are playing on kind of gaming specific type form factors and peripherals and devices, and maybe building PCs themselves, versus that other billion people that are playing, but playing across more kind of mainstream types of platforms, right? They're still enthusiastic gamers. They still spend time and they spend money. They just may not categorize themselves as kind of enthusiast gamers or label themselves gamers with a capital G, but they're worth considering as a customer base that you can reach. So another trend that has happened as the market has grown overall, both the market for gaming PCs, but also the market for PCs overall, is the larger the market gets, the more that it can sustain kind of different segments of specialty types of PCs, or what might start out as specialty types of PCs and then become entire product categories. And so we've seen this kind of what I think of as hyper segmentation, a wide explosion in the variety of form factors and configurations of types of PCs that you can find out there in the market. There are, of course, high-end workstations and high-end kind of gaming desktops that we'll see, but we also saw the emergences of all-in-one desktops for kind of a more, that big desktop experience, but in a more space-constrained environment, or one where they want a certain kind of aesthetic look and feel. We've seen the entire category of these kind of mini desktops, and there's even within there different kind of sizes and form factors as being a category that at one time was kind of a novelty and now is taken off as an entire segment, right? And within notebooks, there's an even wider explosion where similarly they have mobile workstation and enthusiast gaming class platforms that, pack as much punch as they can into something that is still deemed portable, but might run games while plugged into a power outlet on occasion, to this category of thin enthusiast, where it's again aimed at those enthusiast requirements, but aiming at a certain thinness, usually a premium type of price point, etc. And then you've got these really amazing ultra portable platforms that are super slick and razor thin. And then a variety of different notebooks that satisfy different needs by being 2-in-1 convertibles, or having keyboards that are removable so that it can serve as a tablet device as well. It really is quite a wide variety. And then even within these segmentations, each of these kind of segments has their own level of kind of good, better, best, where people can trade off price and kind of component configurations to kind of dial up or down their needs versus their budgets, right? So it's quite a wide variety. What this has led to in turn is that the PC market has done quite well over the past year. And so we still see gaming sales across laptop and desktops growing. We've seen the number of people playing games on PCs projected to grow. I showed that 1.3 billion earlier. We project it's going to be 1.4 by 2022. And that's been very good for kind of the PC business. So, $37 billion worth of PC hardware spending by 2023. And that's a very healthy kind of CAGR. And we saw that kind of accelerated during the COVID lockdown as more people were spending more time on their machines. They would deem it, a worthy investment to buy one that was going to really delight them through those gaming experiences. We've also seen that the part of the role that the PC played during COVID was not just for gaming, but for all of the kind of things around gaming, right? So we saw that people were spending time watching streaming. People were trying their hand at streaming for the first time. That drove up kind of the need for kind of additional performance while they were, both capturing and encoding and streaming a video while also playing a game. We've also seen people kind of demand that their platforms be good for content creation as well, because they would do things like hosting game nights and doing other things that would require them kind of, doing a little bit of rolling up their sleeves and doing some work to augment their entertainment experiences. So as all of those things have happened, what I'd like to do next is talk about some of the kind of hardware trends that we see under the hood that have both enabled these next level of experiences to happen, but also that are ones that should be considered if you're a game developer and you're thinking about, okay, what does all this mean for me as I'm developing my game? And the first one is this thing that I've kind of taken a bunch of things that are ongoing and lumped them under what I called kind of the balance of power. And the reality is that ultimately, these devices, they consume power either off of a wall outlet or off of a battery embedded in the device. And then they have to make decisions about how to apply that. And much of the progress within Intel, but also within the industry as a whole, has been around how we make very efficient use of that power to ensure that devices don't get too hot, ensure that we can fit them into smaller and smaller form factors, and ensure that we kind of, make efficient use of power and don't kind of drain batteries and consume too much off the wall outlet. And so what you see is kind of devices that are built to accommodate small form factor thermals. You see a bunch of different kind of boosting techniques where the platform will kind of boost its use of power for kind of a short burst of time, depending on the workload that's running on it. There's also overclocking that some segments of users are doing. You've also got power sharing happening within the platform itself. So the CPU and GPU and other ingredients in there through platform policies are shifting power back and forth to kind of efficiently balance it for the right style of workload. And then within the SoC, even within the processor itself, you have different IP blocks and different cores that are, again, using policies to kind of shift power around between them and distribute workloads efficiently. Now, all of this leads to really efficient platforms that are kind of trying to put every milliwatt of power in the right place at the right time. But it also means it's challenging to develop for those CPU architectures and understand what kind of performance you're going to get when the whole platform is very fluid. So one of the sessions that we're presenting at GDC this year is labeled Program Your Games Today and Prepare for Tomorrow's Intel CPU Architectures, outlines a bunch of techniques that you can kind of use to be prepared for all of these trends. The next thing is that, is kind of both cause and effect from the trend of seeing kind of those billions of people playing games on PCs, is that the minimum level of expected kind of gaming capability within a platform has gone way up versus what it used to be years ago, right? And that now even mainstream PCs and thin and light notebooks contain really healthy amount of graphics performance and can deliver a games experience that isn't just kind of in the past might have been dismissed for kind of casual games or things like this. They can run most of the big kind of AAA titles and do so at a really decent level of experience. So the main thing to keep in mind here is just don't don't discount them. Don't think about rules of thumb that people might have had from years past and assume that those shouldn't be platforms that can deliver great experiences for your users on across many hundreds of millions of PCs. And there are 2 sessions that we're doing at GDC this year that'll dive into those trends a little bit. One of which is developing for Intel graphics, which will talk about kind of the architecture as well as tools. And then a second session around knowing your Intel GPU architecture. It'll get into some of the details and actually show you some ways in which you can optimize your applications for them. Another kind of interesting trend that we've seen in the marketplace today, and this has a lot to do with both how users are configuring their PCs, but also how the OEM community is meeting their needs by picking different ingredients in there, is it used to be that you would just see PC platforms offering kind of a good, better, best level of trade-off between price and performance. And while that is still true, what we've also seen in recent years is that that they're sometimes being configured with a trade-off between being aimed at more kind of a super high resolution, kind of very rich, immersive gaming experience, and maybe aimed at like a 2K or 4K display, or at some point an 8K display, maybe at 60 hertz, or being aimed at a kind of very responsive, ultra high refresh, ultra low latency kind of multiplayer gaming, competitive gaming angle, right? And so you're starting to see some gaming notebook PCs, for example, where they'll give the user the choice of those panels depending what their preference is. And so you may want to think about, which is the path that more of my users are going to choose, and should I have kind of different default settings or different mixes of settings depending whether they're tuned to kind of competitive versus visual richness and immersion. And that's kind of an interesting trend that we see right on the start. And looking at something a little more on kind of the speculative end, I mentioned on the earlier slide about this kind of trend towards games as a service, and the fact that we've seen developers looking to reach users across numerous devices and spending a lot of time thinking about how to reach them across all devices equally and kind of maximize engagement with their service as a result, right? And that and it's great that that's happening, and it's it's obviously been very successful for the business. And I think what we're starting to see from some titles is a kind of further tuning of those experiences to think about, when my player engages with the game on a phone or on a tablet or on a console or on a PC, are they looking for the same experience made equal, or are they looking for kind of different angles to the experience? And there's a metaphor that Jesse Schell, a game designer, presented at a number of different conferences, and this one here from 2019, where he talks about it using an analogy of kind of venues, right? And thinking about the smartphone as kind of a nook, like a very kind of intimate one-on-one experience. Talks about the console as kind of the hearth, right? A family gathered around, or multiple people on a couch. And he uses the analogy of the PC as kind of the workbench, right? When people want to lean forward, when they want to highly tune and customize their experience and have a lot of control over the specifics of what they're doing there. And I think that sort of a metaphor lets you think about how people may want to engage with the games themselves in different ways, right? Is this one where they want to kind of tweak and modify content, or is it one where they want to sit back and have a social experience? And there's obviously overlaps between those, but it's an interesting metaphor to think about how those types of experiences may extend in the future through this kind of games as a service evolution. The last thing that I'll talk about is kind of this, fragmentation of the business, but I don't talk about it in kind of a negative sense, right? I think it's actually a strength of the PC platform, which now is extending to other platforms as well, where there are, with the business getting as large as it is, there is a multitude of different kind of download stores out there, a variety of different business models, different communities you can engage with, and a whole range of players that will that have a kind of a vested interest in helping developers reach audiences. And so there's a lot of choice out there, especially on the PC, that mean it's not a kind of only one game in town. Giving ourselves a plug here, we're in the mix there as well. We have a program called Game Dev Boost that for people that are doing great experiences on PC is just kind of free marketing to help kind of reach a large community of our user base. So by all means, check that out. So all of those speak to kind of, they're all examples of what I think of as kind of the continual strengths of the PC platform, right? For those enthusiasts that are looking for the best performance, it's really an open platform that continues to surprise and continues to innovate and offers the highest fidelity games experience out there that your money can buy, right? It's an open platform, which means it's open to hundreds and thousands of companies and of players, all kind of innovating and competing and bringing the platform forward. And as I spoke to through both the kind of software as well as the different form factors, it's a very versatile platform, right? It is the world's workhorse. It continues to be so. And that also goes for kind of the gaming side of it. It continues to be a go-to platform for, well over 1 billion users, as we talked about earlier. So in kind of wrapping up here, a couple takeaways. First off, with that wide an audience, decide on who your audience is and learn as much about them as you can. If they are in the enthusiast space, if that's who you're going after, think about how there are this range of kind of specialty designs that are tuned to different needs and how you might want to extend and customize your games to kind of adapt to those. If you have if you're aiming more at the mainstream, again, there's a wide variety of form factors, so you need to be aware of them and develop against them, but don't count any of them out, right? There's a surprisingly large number of platforms out there that are very capable gaming machines today. Embrace that innovation and the open nature of the platform. It's an opportunity to kind of mix things up and do things differently and change the rules. Understand these hardware trends and others that are going on. By all means, attend the other GDC sessions that I alluded to earlier, and sign up for our Game Dev Boost program. If you are bringing a PC game to market, we'd love to have you. Thank you very much.